Hari Om everyone. I welcome all of you to today's Gita class. In this session, we will be discussing Shloka 10.8 and Shloka 10.9. Let's begin with Shloka 10.8. I request all of you to please join your hands, sit straight, close your eyes. You can chant after me, and Anya will repeat the Shloka. Aham sarvasya prabhavo
अहं सर्वस्य प्रभवो
मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते
मत्तः सर्वं प्रवर्तते
इति मत्वा भजन्ते माम्
इति मत्वा भजन्ते मां
बुद्धा भावसमन्विताः.
बुद्धभाव समन्विता.
Snigdha, could you please read the meaning?
I am the origin of all creation. Everything proceeds from me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with great faith and devotion.
Let's now go through Shloka 10.9. Vihan, could you please repeat after me? Machchitta madgata prana
मच्चित्ता मद्गीता प्राणा
बोधयन्तः परस्परम्
बोधयन्ता परस्परं
कथयन्तश्च मां नित्यम्
कथयन्तश्च मां
मां
नित्यं
नित्यम्
मां नित्यं
तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च
तुष्यन्ति च रमन्ति च.
Sanvi and Swanandi, could you please read the meaning?
With their minds fixed on me and their lives surrendered to me, my devotees remain ever content in me. They derive great satisfaction and bliss in enlightening one another about me and in conversing about my glories.
Thank you, everyone. Let us now look at the meaning. Before that, like you all know, we've started with the 10th chapter, which is Vibhuti Yoga. So, what's the first thing when that comes to your mind when you think about Vibhuti? Yes, Snigdha.
It's like what I'm wearing right now. So you wear it after like you pray to God.
Very nice. So, something that you've applied on your forehead. Can we say it's a special kind of powder?
Yeah.
So that's somewhat similar to what this chapter is all about. Until now, that is about until chapter 6, we've been studying about the individual or how it is for the one person or who am I or what am I, how do I feel the things I feel and how do I overcome all of those challenges I face. It was concentrated on our individual challenges and truths that are related to me. That was what chapter 1 to 6 was doing all about. So it by the end of chapter 6, we kind of became really calm. We felt a lot of peace because we also know that chapter 6 is dhyana yoga. So dhyana is meditation. So once you meditate, you feel that positive energy, you feel really calm, and you feel very positive. So that is what we've done until chapter 6. From then on, we've been learning how the world works, or how does my environment look, or what is this existence like. So until then, we had this idea of me and my world. But then we slowly started to realize that the world is nothing but something that my mind has created, or the world is nothing but is not outside, but it's something inside me, and I control how my world looks to me. So we've been learning all of this. Vibhuti Yoga, as Nigda said, Vibhuti is like a special powder. But here, what Vibhuti Yoga does is to tell us about all the special qualities of Krishna or the existence. what are the magnificent qualities of the divine. This is all we'll be looking at in this chapter. So I want you all to imagine there's a door that's closed in front of you, and you open the door. When you open that door, there's lot of light coming in from the door into your eyes. It's so bright. You immediately close your eyes. I'm sure all of you can easily imagine this. So just like how the light, you cannot ignore the light. It is so bright, it's so grand that you just cannot ignore it or behave like it doesn't exist. Similarly, that the divine or the qualities of the divine or the powers of the divine is so magnificent, it's so special that you can't ignore it. It is just in front of you. You can notice, you have to realize it. So let's now get into the first shloka that we will be looking at in chapter 10, which is shloka 10.8 and also shloka 10.9. We already looked at the chanting and the meaning. Here's the brief summary or the main ideas that we are understanding. So Krishna says that God is the source of everything. So he says, I am the source of all the creation. He also tells us that helping others is serving the God. So helping these living organisms is like helping Krishna. He also says that those who understand these two things, they're very happy and peaceful. He also tells us, finally, that those people who understand all of this, they don't stop there. They also go tell others. They guide others towards this wisdom. They help others realize this truth. These are the four major things that Krishna is pointing out through these two shlokas. But let us understand, first of all, break down each of these and understand what they mean and how we can apply that in our lives. So we'll be starting with a game. The game is called Beautiful or Ugly. So I'll show you some pictures on the screen and you will have to tell me. So I'd like you all to raise your hand, and whoever raises their hands first gets the chance to tell us if this image on your screen, a beautiful image or an ugly image. So here's the first picture. Is this beautiful or ugly? Yes, Hriday.
It's beautiful.
Okay. I'll take that. Is this picture beautiful or ugly? Dia and Disha, do you want to tell us? What do you think? Is this beautiful or ugly? You can tell us your first thought. Beautiful or ugly? Okay, I'll come back to you about this. Who else wants to tell me? Yes, Vivan.
Ugly.
Okay. Is this beautiful or ugly? Yes, Anya. You'll have to unmute. Yes, Likhit.
It looks beautiful.
Okay. Is this beautiful or ugly? Yes, Snigdha.
In a way, it actually looks beautiful.
Okay, very nice. Is this beautiful or ugly? Yes, Akshat.
I don't feel both.
You don't feel both, but what if you're supposed to choose one? If is this picture or this person in the picture beautiful or ugly?
Nice, beautiful.
Beautiful. Okay, here's the last picture. Is this beautiful or ugly? Who wants to answer? This is the last one. Yes, Vivan. Or Likhit.
It looks beautiful.
It looks beautiful. Okay, very nice. So we all classified these pictures into two broad categories, beautiful and ugly. And I'm sure there were certain instances where our ideas were not the same. So if I felt that this picture is ugly, it could be possible that someone else in the class may have felt that this particular picture was beautiful and vice versa. So we all had different opinions, but we all did categorize it in some sense into two baskets, that is beautiful and ugly. But now I want to ask all of you, especially those of you answered or uh, gave yourself an answer in your mind, maybe did not unmute, about what is beauty or what is it for something to be ugly. How do you define these two? Yes, Snigdha.
So usually people refer to beauty and ugly as the appearances, like in the outer appearance, but then that's not usually what it actually means. Beauty or beautiful basically means that it basically means your inner beauty and how you are from the inside. So if you are very kind, you're truthful, you're honest, you're caring, and all the good qualities, then you are said to be beautiful. But let's say if you're really, even though you look really pretty on the outside, you may be a very bad person in the inside. You may be very ugly in the inside. So when you have these bad qualities like being rude or not respecting others, that is known as being ugly. So that's the true meaning. Mostly people refer to being beautiful and ugly as the looks. If anyone looks bad, they're ugly. Whoever looks good is beautiful. But maybe the person who looks ugly may be beautiful in the inside. You don't really know until you get to know them. So
So
this
you
that's the
said
meaning.
the person who looks ugly on the outside may look beautiful on the inside. So what makes you feel that that person is ugly on the outside? You said that the person is ugly on the outside. So what ideas or what thoughts help you to that conclusion that this person is ugly?
No, like I'm saying, like other people may think that way. So in their perspective, if they look ugly, they might be beautiful in the inside.
Okay. And do you have any idea, like others, let's say just others and not you particularly, what do they say as this is beautiful and what do they call as this is ugly? Can you give some examples?
Well, for example, like now you see, let's say this girl, and then like she looks really pretty, and then you would say, okay, she's pretty because she might be dressed very neatly. She may look nice. She might be wearing makeup or something. So, in we may come to a conclusion that yes, she's beautiful. But then now we go to her and ask her if we could be her friend. So while we be her friend, she may be like, a bit, she'll be kind for a while. But then slowly when we become like very close with her, she may start acting a bit rude and start showing her true colors. So
Okay.
that's kind of like an example. So
Mhm.
that kind of shows her inner beauty, which she may not have if she's acting in a different extent of being rude. But if she is like kind or let's say generous or something, then she has some beauty inside her.
So we understand a lot about this beautiful and ugly, just this one particular activity. One that, yes, there are different perspectives. So what I find beautiful may not be beautiful for the other person, and what I feel is something that's ugly may not be ugly for the other person. Second thing is that when we categorize something as beautiful or ugly, like Snigdha gave us an example, someone dressed neatly or who has some certain kinds of facial features, or let's take simpler example, someone who's really tall, maybe that's beautiful, or someone who's really short is not very beautiful. People do have such ideas. Now how do we then categorize them? I want you all to think a little bit more. So, when we say he's tall or she's tall, we also notice that if they're really very tall, let's say very, very tall, like a giant, then we also say, oh, that's also ugly. So, what is this? This is kind of relative to something. So, we say that this is the perfect height, and whoever meets this height is perfect. The ones who are taller than this are ugly, or the ones who are shorter than this are ugly. The ones who meet this correct, this set height, they are beautiful. Similarly, this is just an example, but then you can take examples of other features like how our nose is shaped, how big our eyes are, or how small our eyes are, our ears, our hair, the color of our hair, how long they are. So many different things, the color of our skin. So, all of this, we have it, or the society has certain measures a certain set standard saying this is what is beautiful. So anything on the right of it is ugly, anything on the left of it is ugly. Similarly, when we looked at the different pictures, until now we're just talking, at least through a discussion, about human beings. But then we also looked at how, when we saw the picture of a peacock, some of us felt that it's very beautiful for some reason. And then when we looked at the other animal, we felt that's kind of ugly, not as beautiful. This is also relative. So we think, oh, the peacock has so many colors, so it's beautiful. Or this is just dark brown. So maybe that. It could be just different things. The eyes of that animal, the nose of the animal, all of it together, we get these perspectives. One thing is for sure, out of all the pictures we looked at, they were so different, and we kind of mentally make these categories of beautiful and ugly. Let's stop here. We'll come back to this. But before we do that, I want to ask you all. We had this task to get something from our garden. How many of you got it? And also, could you show it to me? Very nice. So, do show it to me. So, I also bought something that I liked from my garden. If you can see this, this is a pink flower, maybe a rose. It's dark pink. So, this is how it looks. So, this is what I picked, and this is something I found beautiful. So, we'll just take three people, very lucky people, who will tell us why they picked what they picked and why they liked it. Why did they think it's beautiful? We'll start with Rohan.
I I picked up this flower because it's really nice and its smell is also good.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah,
Very good, Rohan.
that's it.
Excellent. Yes, Anya.
Ma'am, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Ma'am, this is called a crane bill, and the crane bill flower. It's not actually a crane bill. That's its nickname. It's a geranium. It's a genus of the 42 species of annual, biennial, and perennial plants that are commonly known as geranium or cranebill plants. They are found throughout the temperate regions of the world and the mountains of the tropics.
That's
Also,
really nice. But tell me in one line, why did you pick this flower? There's so many things, right? There were leaves. There's probably also mud in the garden. But why did you pick this particular flower?
I chose it because I like its color, my pink. It's my favorite color.
Very nice. Very nice.
And also it's actually smelling good, and it's probably like I said, it grows only in some regions of the world, and I'm lucky to have it here in India.
Very nice. Very nice, Anya. Excellent. Swanandi and Sanvi, did you also pick something? Can you show us what it is and why you picked that?
Yeah, so I found this shell.
Wow.
Yeah, so I found this one. Yeah, we picked it because it's prettier than other rocks and stones.
And I like the color of it.
It's really beautiful. That's why.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. So, do you know what this is? I just told you. Who wants to tell me? Yes, Anya.
Ma'am, it's a dark pink rose.
Is it the same one I just showed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tada! I actually picked two of them. Do they look similar? Are they same?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they really same? I want the rest of you to think about it as well. So look at these two flowers. Are they exactly the same?
No, ma'am. One is dark pink and one is light pink.
Okay, can someone tell me if there's any other difference between these two flowers?
Ma'am, one has a leaf.
Oh, one has the leaf. Very nice. Okay. Yes, Rohan.
It can be many things like the color, and one can have like a scratch on it, and other cannot have a scratch.
Right?
It cannot be exactly same, but
It cannot be exactly same. If I'm looking at it closely, so the number of petals, they're very different. It just feels like it just can't be the same. And also, if you look at it this closely, here the petals are more open or they're more spread out, but here the petals are more together or close to the other petals. Also, this appears to be slightly bigger than this one, and also the number of leaves, there are more leaves on this flower, there are lesser here. So if you think about it, the way I plucked it, so this stalk is slightly bigger, this is shorter. So if I start counting, there's so many differences between these two flowers. Yet when I showed you this flower first and then this flower, you told me it's the same. But then when I get it both closer and I show it to you together, I saw that a lot of you, just by looking at it through Zoom on a camera, you can find out so many differences. And I'm sure if I give it to you in your hand and if you're able to touch and feel it physically, you will see that there's so many more other differences. Now, I want to ask you some questions. All of you bought one or two beautiful things from your garden. Can you get an exactly same thing or the same copy of it if I ask you to get one more of it? Let's ask Sanvi and Swanandi because they bought they got a stone or a shell, right? So can you get an exactly same stone or a shell?
No, we can't because each of its design is unique and it won't be repeated.
Very nice. That's true. And if we all agree, can we show a thumbs up? Okay. Before we kind of conclude what all of this means, why did I ask you to get something from your garden? There's one another fun thing I want all of us to do. For that, I'll need you all to bring a paper and a pencil. You have 10 seconds, and I'll count 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Show me a thumbs up if you all got a pen and a paper. Great. Looks like all of you did. But even if you didn't, go run and get it quickly. So today we're doing something really fun. So we will be drawing something today, but I'm not going to tell you what we are drawing. Let's just follow what's shown on the screen and we can do it. It's really simple. I am also doing it along with you. Let's start now.
Ma'am, can we take a book also?
Yeah, sure. A book, paper, anything works. So first, you draw a U, a capital U on the paper. Make it a little big, slightly. I hope all of you are done with the U. Now you draw a straight or a slant line. It could be a little curved like this. Once you're done with that, you make another line. So it's like a Y, a capital Y. It can be a little curved, it can also be straight, however you like. Now make this. It's like a V upside down. And this is the last step. You draw two straight lines. Are we all done? This is mine. By the way, this is a tulip flower. A drawing of a tulip flower. This is my tulip. Here's mine. Now, let's take another minute. Draw the exact same tulip. Like follow this exact same steps. Draw one next to it. I'm drawing mine now. Try to draw it as similar as the one you just finished drawing. And show me a thumbs up if you're done drawing. Great. Okay, so here are my two tulips. I tried to keep it as similar as possible. Who wants to show their tulip as well? And also, yeah, sure. Yes, Nigda.
Well, my tulips are not exactly the same. So I just like drew one of the tulip, which like you showed from the video, and then like I try to make it a bit more better by drawing another tulip, but not really, it's not so similar.
So
But
why is it different? Can you point out the differences, the major difference?
Because I already drew it first, like I drew it first over here, and I already knew how to draw it, so that's why I could draw it in a more better version, and it looked a bit more different. That's why.
Okay, sure. Great. I get it. Yes, Anya?
Ma'am, can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes.
Ma'am, even like Snigdha said, I had tried to draw like a different one, but I had no space, so I had to do like this. So the differences are like this one is even more shaded. This part is even more shaded, and this part it's light, like it's lightly shaded. If you can see that, and it's not like very shaded, but when you see here in the next one it's shaded like that. That's the only differences that I made, and the main difference is that this one is smaller and this one is bigger.
Very good, Anya and Snigdha. So I want all of you to look at your respective drawings as well. I really tried to make it very similar, but then one of it is slightly bigger than the other, like Anya's, and the stalk is slightly long. The stalk is slightly more thick. Like that, there's so many differences. Though I tried my best to make them look similar. Also, some of us colored it, like Snigdha gave an outline with the color. The colors are different. Similarly, though I'm the one who drew both the tulips, and though I put in all the effort to make them look exactly same, they weren't exactly same. They looked different. In some way or the other, all of our drawings will look different. Not only is my tulip different from the tulip that Rohan has drawn or Vivan has drawn, The tulip is different from what Dia and Disha have drawn. It's also different. The tulips that I myself have drawn, the two tulips that I've drawn, they're so different. Like that, in nature as well, like the tulips you can find here on the screen, there's so many different kinds of them, they're different colors. But then even if you look at the same colored ones, you can find so many other differences. Not only this, the objects that we bought, like these two flowers, though they look same, if you look at it closely, you'll find so many other differences. With that, if there's something that we understand, if we kind of club all our learnings from the different tasks that we just performed, we find out some really important things. One, we do know that there are no two similar things or same things. Everything is really different. Second, we do subconsciously or consciously sometimes categorize them into beautiful or ugly things. But here is what Krishna is telling us, that in the world you may find different kinds of things which may be different looking. You may find it beautiful, you may find it ugly, but then Krishna says he is in all of those things. He is in that shell that Swanandi and Sanvi showed us. He is in this flower that I bought. He's in the flower that Rohan showed us. He is in all of those things. He's also in us. He is in all the living beings. He is in the plant from where I plucked this flower. He is in everything. That is what Krishna is saying. Also, if there's one other thing that we realize from our tasks, is that nothing really is ugly or beautiful. It's how we look at it. It's also the standards that are probably set and we just subconsciously follow it. Like I gave the example of the height or our nose structure or the length of our hair. We just have some ideas which are fit in us, which are very deep rooted, which make us decide or judge things, saying this is ugly and this is more beautiful, this is less beautiful. But what is the truth? The truth is that there are so many different things in this universe. Each of them are very different. You cannot find two exactly same kinds of things. If you also look at the two thumbs in your hand, you will notice that the fingerprint in each of those fingers are very different if you look at it closely. So we know that everything is different. But what Krishna says is that no matter what it is, no matter how different it is or how similar they are, I am in all of them. And also, beautiful or ugly is how we look at them. That's one thing I want you to understand. Here's a question I want all of you to answer. How many of you made cards on Mother's Day, greeting cards or some kind of a picture? It could be for Mother's Day or Father's Day or Teacher's Day. How many of you have made them? Okay, you can see a lot of us have done that. So I want to ask some of you. So Swanandi, when you made the greeting card, what were the things that were going on in your mind? Were you sad? Were you happy? Were you nervous?
I was really happy and excited at that moment, and I wanted to make sure that whatever I do would surprise my parents and would give them happiness.
Very nice. Excellent. That's also very nice. Thank you, Swanandi. Let's also listen to Akshat. So, Akshat, were you nervous, sad, happy when you made the card?
I'm nervous about what the reaction would be.
Really? So when you made the card, you were really nervous all the time?
Yes.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Akshat, and thank you, Swanandi. So we heard about two different perspectives about people making Mother's Day card, right? So Swanandi said she was really happy and excited that she's doing something, and she just gave it. But then she felt really happy throughout the process. But Akshat gave us a slightly different answer. He said he was really nervous about would it surprise them or not, would they like it or not. So they were really he was really nervous when he made the card. If we are to understand why one of them is nervous and why the other one is really happy, then it's to do with how they looked at what they were doing. I feel Swanandi, or all of us who were happy and excited when we made the card, it's probably because we did not really think about how would our parents react to it or how would our teacher react to it. Would they like it? Would they really not like it? There wasn't a lot of thinking about the reaction part of it. But there was more thinking of what can I add? How can I make this better? How many flowers can I cut out? Can I add a bow? Can I draw these lines? What can I write? Can I write a beautiful message? All of that thinking, where you don't really think about the result, or like how would our parents look at it or how would they receive it. When there is no such, when there are lesser number of thoughts of that nature, then the process becomes really enjoyable. You start enjoying the process itself. But then when on the other hand, if you really think about, oh, are they gonna like it? Will they be excited or not? Will they be surprised or not? So when you start thinking about all of these things, you stop focusing on the task at hand itself. You stop thinking more about what you're doing or what's in your hand. Like you have the sketch pen. What can I do with the sketch pen to this greeting card? You stop thinking less. You start thinking about it more or less. And that gives you that kind of nervousness or that feeling of, oh, what if that happens? What if they don't like it? And all of those questions. One thing that I've noticed mostly is that when you look at people in temples or at home, when they're making something for God, when they're making a prasad, when they're cooking prasad, food for prasad, or when they're knitting clothes for Krishna or for the idol, or maybe making a garland out of flowers for Krishna, I've seen that mostly people are really happy when they're doing it. Why? Because they have some kind of unconditional love, and also they're not thinking about, oh, will Krishna like it or not. They're only looking, or they're only concentrating on the task at hand about how can I make this really nice? How can I offer the best that I have to Krishna? When there is that kind of feeling, you're very happy. So, what do we understand from this? That one, that when you have that pure feeling or that kind of unconditional love and you don't think really about the result and you just focus on service to Krishna, then you're automatically very peaceful, calm, and very happy. Also, how do you serve Krishna? So, apart from the Krishna in our puja room or in the temple, or you find Krishna in some other places, where else do you find Krishna? Also, the things that you can do to the Krishna's idol are very limited, right? You can give prasad, you can make a garland, you can offer some nice clothes that you can knit yourself and give it to Krishna. But how else, or what are the other ways you can serve? That brings us to the previous understanding that Krishna is in all the living beings. So, what do you then do? You can also help the other living beings, right? Which is literally the same as helping Krishna, because Krishna is in all of them. So, when you realize that Krishna is in all of these living beings and you help others, then you are helping Krishna. And how is your feeling when you're helping others? When you do it unconditionally and not thinking about the result, you're very naturally happy, peaceful. You feel that emotion, you feel that happiness that, oh, I'm doing this. This is really nice. This is a service to Krishna. This is a service to the world, which is nothing but Krishna, all the organisms, living organisms in the world. This could be other human beings. This can also be some animals. This could also be watering a plant. All of these things are nothing but some ways or some path to help Krishna. Here's another really nice thing that I want to tell you. All of us have some kind of superpower within us. We all have some kind of superpower. When you help someone, you're essentially using that superpower. But right now, I want to do a little game. Want to play a little game with one of you. Who wants to play the game with me? Who else? Only one lucky person can play. Yes, Akshat. Let's see. So, Akshat, I want you to imagine that. First of all, I have a question to ask you. Whom do you love the most in the world?
My mother.
Your mother. Very nice. Okay. Now let's play this game. So listen carefully. Listen very, very carefully to what I'm telling you. So let's say you have this magical power to think of a food and the food is on the table. So you think about gulab jamun and you have gulab jamun on the table. That's a superpower you have. You think about noodles and you have noodles on the table. You think about chocolates, you have chocolates. Like that, you can think about anything and that's on the table. This is a superpower that, let's say, Akshat has. So now, Akshat, let's say one day there are about 2,000 people coming to your house for some lunch, let's say. And now your mom has to cook food for the 2,000 people. Now she says, "Oh, this is so difficult. I'll have to cook for all of the people. This is very hard. It's very difficult because I don't even have, let's say, an hour to cook all the dishes." So what are you going to do?
Just I'm going to imagine about some food and then that's it. It's there.
But then cooking for those guests is not your task, right? It's what your mom was supposed to do. So why would you still use your superpower to help her?
Because she's not able to do it.
So is it like anybody who's not able to do it, you'll still help them? Or is there something more deeper as to why you would go out of your way to help your mom or use all your superpowers to do that?
To some people, I would help who are in need, but I would not help some who always want to bully me.
Okay, very nice. So this is one situation. Here's the second situation. It's the same thing that there are these many people coming for lunch, and you can imagine. But then there is one condition to your superpower that if you use it once, then it's over. You can only use your superpower once. So will you still help your mother? And why?
Uh, yes,
Why?
because there is no other option.
Okay, but let's say she didn't pressurize you. She doesn't even know you have that superpower. It's just you who knows that I have this superpower. It's a secret superpower. Would you still like you don't have any kind of pressure?
I would still,
Why?
because I want to help her.
Why do you want to help her?
Because she helps me a lot.
Can I also tell me if this is right or wrong? Is it because you love your mother?
Mm. Ah, okay.
So you help her because you also love her? Is that one of the reasons?
Um, can be, yeah.
Okay. Now all of us listen to Akshat. So there are so many things that Akshat told us. He first told us that he'll help his mother, but not the people who, let's say, bully Akshat. So why this difference? What exactly is the difference here? It's like Akshat really loves his mother, and why does he not help the bullies? Maybe because he doesn't like them as much. He probably dislikes them because they bully him. This could be one possibility as to why Akshat doesn't want to help the people who bullied him. So, one thing we understand here for sure, and this is a question that all of you can ask to yourself, is when you have a superpower with you and there's some loved one who needs it, would you help that loved person? Would you use your superpower to help that person? Show me a thumbs up if you would help that loved one, and show me a thumbs down if you would not help that loved person. I would, so I'll show a thumbs up. And I can see that all of us, or a majority of us, are showing a thumbs up, which is to say that when I have something really nice or when I have a superpower and when there is someone whom I love who needs it, I would readily go help that person. This is to say that, let's say there's a person who's realized the truth that when you do service to Krishna or when you do everything as a service to Krishna, and when there is Krishna and all, so when I help anybody, I help Krishna, that gives me satisfaction, and that is the key to happiness, or that's the key to peaceful living. And he knows this knowledge, he has knowledge of this fact. Now that knowledge becomes a superpower, and when he sees someone else who's not as peaceful, who's not as happy, who's nervous, who's not, who feels pressure to do something, who's not really happy when he's doing something, then I have this superpower to help that person realize the truth, to make his life also equally happy and peaceful. So that is why Krishna says that the one who realizes the truth also helps and guides others, because he loves Krishna a lot, and because he sees Krishna in everybody, he also loves all of them equally. So this is to ask you, do you like your uh, right hand index or your left hand index finger? Which finger do you like out of these two? I'm sure most of you would say, I like both of them equally. I can't choose one over the other. I can't say that I don't like my left hand index finger and I like my right hand index finger more than that. I'm sure all of us like all our fingers equally for that fact, as a matter of fact. And all the different parts of our body, we like all of them equally. We need all of them equally. Similarly, because the wise one or the realized one looks at Krishna and everyone, he sees all of them as equal beings. And because he sees all of them equally and because he loves all of them equally, it is but natural for him to go and help all of them, to use his superpower and help all of them. Also because, like in case of Akshat, he had a limit to his superpower. But when you have this knowledge, you don't have a limit. You can use it as much as you want. You can help as many people as you want. Here's one last question I want to ask all of you. You can all answer it or write it down somewhere, but one lucky person gets to unmute and answer. How about we ask Sandy?
Yes, Manya.
Do you remember the last time you cried? Or would you like to share us one instance where you cried and why
I
you
don't remember the last time I cried, but then it must be for the reason that I'm always lonely and I don't have any siblings or pets.
Okay, very nice. I also want to ask you a second question. Have you ever have you ever fallen down, hurt yourself, and then cried? Maybe as a child or even now.
Yeah, when I was small.
So you fell down and you started crying?
Yeah, I fell ulta from like a swing and then yeah, I started crying.
Oh, firstly, I'm very sorry that that happened. But here's the last question, the third question. Have you ever cried watching a movie?
No.
No. Has anyone here cried watching a movie? Yes, Snigdha. And yes, Swanandi. We'll listen to Swanandi first. And why did you cry? What? Why?
Actually, it was really sad at the ending of the movie, and it was like my eyes were tearing up. It was not like I started crying, but my eyes were watery a bit. That's it.
Okay. Yes, Snigdha. Thank you, Swanandi. Yes,
Yeah,
Snigdha.
last to last year, there was this one Kannada movie which got released. So, like, we went to the theater to watch it. So, that time I'm very emotional when it comes to some kinds of movies. So, I actually cried 4 times because
Okay.
the movie was, I mean, the movie wasn't that sad. But
Can you tell us like one instance or one scene from the movie which made you cry? What
So
happened?
the movie's name is Charlie 777. It's about a dog who is like a stray kind of dog, and like
Okay. So
has an
the
owner.
challenge is you'll have to tell us just that one line or one
Yeah,
line.
I'll
What's
tell
the
only
scene
one
about?
scene. So
Yeah.
it was like the dog had cancer, and then like it was a girl gave birth to a kid in the end, then it died, and then the owner was like crying a lot, and then even I started crying very badly until the movie ended. I was still crying,
Okay.
and it took my parents a lot of time to calm me down. To calm me down, they took me to Domino's for eating pizza. Then I calmed down finally. Till that time, I was still
Okay.
crying.
Okay, thank you so much, Nigda. So the two things that we saw, one is when all of us, I'm hoping, cried when we fell down as a child. The second one, we listened to the story of Snigdha when she cried watching a movie about a dog who dies in the end. And I'm sure all of us have at least this one story where we cried or at least felt really bad watching a movie. So now, why am I telling you all of this? I want you all to think, why did you cry when you fell down? Or why did you cry the last time you cried? The different answers. I fell down, it was paining really bad, it was bleeding, I couldn't bear the pain, and I started crying. That's why I cried when I fell down.
Ma'am, can I
So
tell?
I'll come to you, Anya. Just give me 1 minute. So, I can also think about different other situations where I cried, mostly because I felt really bad or terrible about the situation and I cried. Now, why did Snigdha cry or why did I cry when watching a movie? This is something all of you can ask yourself. Why did you cry when you watched the movie? It's because though you knew that the dog probably doesn't even exist, it's just a movie and the dog is probably acting and acting really well. It's a movie, it's not real. But still, when you looked at the dog, you started crying, seeing what happened to the dog. Why? You wouldn't feel the pain. At least you didn't die when you were watching the movie. Nothing happened to you. You didn't even get a small little wound or a small little cut when you watched the movie. But why did you cry? It's a dog who died in the movie and it's not even real. Why did you cry? Because it's very natural to all of us to feel for others. It could be empathy, it could be it could also be happiness. Think of those moments where you saw someone else maybe celebrating a birthday, someone else celebrating something else, someone really happy, someone just jumping all of a sudden and laughing, and you start laughing too. It's very natural for us to feel the emotion of someone else. It could be both sadness and happiness and everything in between, all of it. When you see someone else experiencing it, you also experience it. So why is it like that? That is because me, you, the dog, Charlie, or any animal, any plant, we are not different. We're all one. Fundamentally, we are all one. We all have the same essence. We're all literally the same, though we may look different or we may have different forms, like the tulip that we all drew. We may all look different, but we're all the same. And that's why we naturally feel for others and we naturally have this feeling of oneness with everyone, that all of us are a family or all of us are just this one energy or we're all the same one truth. But then it's like the wind shield. It's like that screen or the glass in your car, which due to fog or due to rain, it becomes really clouded. That's how though naturally we all have this feeling, somehow it kind of becomes foggy or it becomes unclear. It's still there. How do we know that it's still there? We cry when we watch a movie, we cry when we see a dog on the road, we cry looking at others, we become happy looking at others. It's still there, but then it's clouded. And just like how when a viper moves through it and the scene becomes clear, it's the same way when you realize the truth, you start seeing clearly. You just realize the truth that always existed, that we're all the same, we're all the one. You realize it when you realize that truth, when you start noticing, when you start observing, and when you start applying the truth that we're all one, we're not different. And That is when it becomes clear, and that is when you also become really peaceful and happy, because you know that by serving them, you're not only serving Krishna, but also you're serving yourself, you're helping yourself, because you and the other person or the other animal were not different. And that is what the two shlokas that we discussed today are telling us about. So we'll just listen to people, three of us. You can share your understanding in short. Yes, Vivan. Yes, Anya, do you want to share your understanding?
Ma'am, I wanted to ask if I can share, like, why was I crying?
Sure. We'll come to that, but first, do you want to tell us what you understood from the two shlokas that we discussed?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Uh, Anyone else who wants to share their understanding with us? What you understood from the shloka, it can be just one thing that you take. Sanvi, Swanandi, do you want to share?
Yeah, so what I understood was God is like the creator of everything. Everything we know comes from God at one point. And whenever we do service to a person, it's like doing service to God.
Very nice. Thank you, Sanvi. Swanandi, do you also want to share what you understood?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, what I in which may be living or non-living is in a form of a god, so we must respect everything. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is some network issue over here, and when we are supposed to,
Okay.
and that's to the god, so helping others would be like showing your devotion to the god.
Okay. Thank you so much, Swanandi. Very nice.
Sorry, Manya. Can Swanandi please repeat? Couldn't hear it clearly. Swanandi?
Yes, yeah, I'll repeat it. Firstly, what I understood is what I said is everything is a form of a god. So everything has God in it. So we are supposed to respect even a non-living thing and a living thing. Secondly, I understood that helping others, giving support to each other, in this manner we can show the devotion which we have for our God through that way.
Very nice.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Swanandi. Sai Kiran, would you like to share your understanding of the shloka?
Yes, Akka. I understood what you told us. Uh, we should take in a positive way that everything is beautiful. Everything is we just took if we took good thing if we took image of Krishna, we can assume if a person is if a person is good, if a person looks good, we cannot see what will be inside in him. We cannot just look and tell that he's good or bad. I understand. We cannot judge uh, a person or a flower or a thing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sai Kiran. Very nice. Likhit, do you want to share your understanding? Rohan?
Yes, I understood that everybody is one and everybody has, and Krishna is in everyone, and we all feel for each other. And we should help each other.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Likhit. Yes, Akshat.
I understood that helping others is helping the God, and I also understood that while we are doing anything, we are not supposed to keep on be thinking about the result of.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Akshat. Very nice. Um, yes, Likhit.
Yes, Manya, I understood that everyone has their own life and their own passion. However they want, they can live. But if they're doing anything wrong, we need to make them in a we need to make them in a right way.
Very nice. So if you know the truth, or if you know something that you think might help that person, you should definitely share it with that person. You should guide that person. Very nice. Thank you so much, Likhit. Snigdha, would you like to share what you understood from the shloka?
Yeah, so what I understood in the shloka is that whatever you see, beautiful or ugly, no matter what it is, Krishna is always in every single thing. So no matter what you think, even if it can be an ugly thing or a beautiful thing, no matter anything, Krishna is always in that particular thing. And yeah, that's basically the main thing which I understood.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Snigdha. Excellent. Uh, Anybody else would like to share their understanding of the shloka? Dia, Disha, Vivan, Anya. Okay. So, with that, we conclude that everything in this existence is very different. No two things are same. They're all different. But then there's Krishna in all of these living things, all of the living beings. There is some kind of divinity. The same divinity that's in me, it's in all the other organisms. We are the same. And when you realize that, whatever you do becomes a service to Krishna, and that makes your life very peaceful. It makes you very happy. And the one who's realized this also guides others to realize this truth. With that, we conclude Shloka 10.8 and 10.9. Let us chant the Krishna mantra. Please join your hands and chant along with me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Om.